All right. My dear fellow listeners, good evening once again, and welcome to another edition of Let's Chit Chat with Narine Dat. Let's Chit Chat with Narine Dat is a Canadian initiative with a global impact. There are a few different ways to listen to us. You can listen to us on the regular dial, that's the radio, 102.7 CKMS FM. You can listen to us on TV as well, for those of you who have the Rogers digital box on channel 946. And of course, we are live streaming our chit chat, so do take the opportunity to share a page. We ask you to stay with us if you would like to learn a thing or two. But if you're looking for an opportunity to vent out negativity, this is not for you. Tonight, we have a very special guest, a person who I've known and very proud of, actually, a Guyanese born. No, she's no other than Ingrid. She's a former police officer. Obviously, we'll take full opportunity to get to know her as an individual, her contribution in the police force, and we'll have a little bit of fun as well. Also, I have a little bit of a surprise for her. I'm not sure how much she can handle surprises, but hopefully, and it's all good, though, Ingrid. So I can assure you,
Okay.
it's all good. It's all good. So not to worry about it at all.
All right.
But our viewers knows they know how we do it here. Sometimes we have surprises and so on. But anyways, welcome to Let's Chit Chat with Narine. How are you doing tonight, Ingrid?
You know what? I'm doing pretty good, Narine. I mean, it's a sunny day. It's warm. So, hey, it's all good.
All right,
It's a
I know,
nice
and
day.
I know, and you took the time to be with us here, and we are forever grateful for that, of course, because I know you could have been outside and just enjoying the beautiful weather, you know.
Right. Well, I appreciate you having the opportunity and giving me that opportunity to be on your show. So for me, that's I truly appreciate that. So I'm
All
looking
right,
forward to this.
absolutely. So obviously, the pleasure is all ours, but we are going to get right into it because we have people anxious to get to know you more. People really admire you. They really especially our Guyanese West Indian people, they like to see, when our West Indian people are doing well, and you've really set some high standard in terms of when it comes to policing, for being the first Black woman to hold the highest ranking here in Canada, which is extremely proud of to say, being a Guyanese kind of thing, So I'm glad to get to know you, kind of thing. So of course, we take great pride in sharing those stories for sure, and that's one of the reasons we have invited you here. But do take a minute or so, introduce yourself to us so that people can know maybe where you were born, things that you're willing to share that way. And then I do have some fun question for you. And this will be very crucial for listeners to pay attention to, because a lot of the times when people go for interviews and so on, it's not always about, why should we choose you for the job? It's about how you can think critically and all of that. And so that's one of the reasons we have specifically decided to ask you a few specific questions. We hope that we wouldn't put you on the spot, but I'm sure you are going to do well. So do take the opportunity, introduce yourself to us, and we are going to get right into the questions for you.
All right. Well, again, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here tonight. So I'm Ingrid. My name is Ingrid Berkeley. I go Ingrid Berkeley-Brown. I was born in Guyana, immigrated to Canada in 1974, and I don't have a problem saying at that time I was 14 years of age. So I'll let your audience do the calculations. Um, Obviously, very, very proud of my Guyanese heritage is something that I take every opportunity to speak about and speak about what being a Guyanese and what I grew up with to the age of 14 that made me the individual I am today. I started with the Peel Regional Police in 1986. At that time, I was the only Black female on the job. There might have been perhaps 1,200 officers on the job at that time, maybe a little less. Uh, I've actually just recently retired at the end of April. So that gave me about 34 years in policing. As a police officer, I've worked in various facets of policing, including uniform patrol, investigative bureaus. I worked in the child abuse sex assault unit. I worked in community services. One thing that I'm really proud of, and it's a decision I made, a critical decision, is to also work in our race relations bureau, because at this time I was in 1992, and race relations was kind of at the forefront of policing. And of course, we know that it's still here today.
Mhm.
But I really wanted an opportunity to build bridges with the police and the community. So for me, that was a catalyst for me joining that particular unit. Um, I moved through the ranks. I was a patrol sergeant. I was a staff sergeant. I was an inspector, and as an inspector, I was what we call the duty inspector. Uh, those are the officers. Was my first time being a senior officer, but also I'm the representative of the chief during off hours because the duty inspector works 24 hours a day,
Wow.
right? Yeah, we don't just work 8 to 4 in admin. We're on the front lines. So I became a superintendent. I was in charge of a division, and my last position was as a deputy chief. My role as a deputy chief was to be responsible for policing divisions within the region of Peel, and that, of course, is Brampton and Mississauga. I was also responsible for the Pearson International Airport and our communications bureau. As I said, I retired recently. So that's pretty much an idea. I'm the last in my personal life. I am the last of 11.
Oh, wow.
So I was, I guess, what they call the runt of the litter, but I was also mighty. I had to keep up with my siblings. So, and I'm currently married. I have 2 kids, a blended family. So there's a stepdaughter, and 3 grandkids. That's kind of it in a nutshell. And I live, of course, in the city of Cambridge, region of Waterloo, and love it.
That's
Yeah.
right. The reason why that's the same city where I live, for those of you who don't know, kind of thing. So let me take the privilege and pride in mentioning that. I didn't know that you happen to be the last child in the family, which means that we do have something in common. I happen to be the last child as well too.
Oh, wow.
In the
My
family.
siblings may say I'm spoiled, but I don't think so.
Yeah. But anyways, thank you for that really nice introduction. I very much appreciate it. I want to remind people that they're listening to Let's Chit Chat with Narine Dat. Keep in mind, there are a few different ways to listen to us. You can listen to us on a regular dial. That's the radio, 102.7 CKMS FM. You can listen to us on Rogers digital cable as well, for those of you who have the Rogers digital box. And of course, we are live stream on Chit Chat, so do take the opportunity to share a page. I recognize some names who are watching. I know you guys are very engaging, so don't be afraid to kind of continue, to kind of give your input and comment and all of that. We definitely will appreciate all of that. So I do have a few specific questions for you, and this is more of an opportunity for us to get to know you more as a person, and it is our hope as well too that people will learn as you respond to these questions that we have here for you, because obviously we want to make sure that our viewers or listeners are gaining knowledge from our guests, especially somebody like you, because you've stuck on a job for so long. Because I can tell you, as a job developer working in employment sector, it's hard to get people to stay for 5 years. That's like a max. So I'm going to talk about that later on. So good for you, and then you keep moving on. It's hard to get people to come for an interview in the first place, but
Right.
no kidding. You book an interview with 5 people and then 3 people show up. So it goes to show your determination and all of that. So very, very special person we have here tonight. So my very first question for you is, you are a new addition to a crayon box. And I know my audience are not accustomed to these kinds of questions, but we went a little bit deep this time. You are a new addition to a crayon box. What color would you be and why?
A new addition. So does that mean I can't be one of the colors that currently exist? I have to be a completely new addition?
No, you can be one of those existing one, but it's just that you are now part of whatever that existing addition is.
Right. I think if I'm a new addition, I would probably want to be blood orange, right? And my reason for that is, for one thing, I want to be the person that stands out in a crowd. I want to be that individual that is there to make a difference and to make sure my point comes across. So in blood orange, if you've got a point to say, or a point of view, you are going to make sure that it's loud, clear, and bold.
Oh, wow.
Thank
you so much. Thank you so much. I like how you finish up that answer. Look at my tie. You see, I have a little bit of an orange in there too.
There you go. Maybe you got a little bit of that in you too.
Yeah. Of course. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really like that response to that, because the idea, actually, anything we do now, whether that be going for a job interview, whether that be starting out something career-wise, anything, you have to be one that stand out for sure, because especially if somebody's doing an interview, with somebody trying to choose a few people for a few positions, ideally they're going to look to see what is it that sets you apart from the other candidate. You have to stand out.
Absolutely.
So the
Yes.
fact that you've said that, I'm hoping that people are making notes there, because they have to figure out what's in them really that sets them apart from other people. So thank you so much for
That's right.
really answering that so nicely, so promptly. Very, very much appreciated. So my next question for you is, we just finished this interview here. We just finished this interview, and you step outside, wherever you are, office, home,
Right.
whatever, and you
Right.
find a lottery ticket, and
Right.
you realize that that lottery ticket, it's a winning ticket. It's a winning ticket of $2 million. What would
Right.
you do with that ticket?
Well, I would say, first of all, I'd be saying, whoa, this is my lucky day, right? But I think the one thing I would make sure I do is I would turn it into, whether it's the lottery kiosk or the police station. I Integrity is something that's key for me. Um, I know it's not my ticket. Uh, I know there's someone who actually spent some money to purchase that ticket, and it's important for that person to recognize and to be not recognized, but to get those winnings, that those $2 million. I also know as a police officer that if you find something and you turn it into a police station and it's not claimed within 30 days, then you, as the individual who found it, can make application to the police service to get that item, right? So, but my first thing is I would want to make sure I turn it in to a police station so the rightful owner is sought out and given that ticket. If he or she doesn't turn up in 30 days, I can make application to get the ticket and
Oh
get
wow! Honestly, I did not know that we could have done that. Like, if nobody claimed that lost item, I didn't know people could have go through a process to kind of retrieve that.
yes,
Like,
once you
oh wow!
exactly, if no one claims it, then the person who actually found it can make application
Oh wow!
to claim that.
I did not know that. So just learned something from you
Oh,
there.
there you
There you
go.
go. I know, because I actually I we had a situation where I wouldn't mention a person's name, where the
Mm,
person lost some cash dollars,
right,
and
right,
so we felt that it was probably important for us to make a quick report to the police, just in case if people turn it in, because obviously there was nothing written on it and so on, kind of thing.
right,
And then the police laughed in a very nice way, and the police said, usually people do not turn in cash if they find cash,
right.
usually, but if they do, will be very nice. We have never hard back anything at all.
Anything?
At all.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Well,
yeah,
yeah, and if you don't get it, then it just goes into
yeah,
a
yeah.
pot, and then yeah. But yeah, you're allowed to do that.
Yeah. No, but I think the person never returned it, or never handed in to the police, is
Oh,
what
they
I.
never.
Oh,
Oh,
no, 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 no. Yes,
okay. Okay.
yeah. Because this said is very uncommon that people usually, if you lose a wallet with IDs and whatnot, people
Right,
wouldn't mind turn it
right.
in, and all of that. But I
Yeah.
just learned something from you. I did not know that. So it goes to show how much can come out of this chit chat here, especially somebody like you. We know that you have lots to offer, so we're really looking forward for this chit chat here.
Right.
This next question might seems a little bit odd, but I just want to have a sense as to how people think, how you are thinking, and based on your response, people can probably relate as well, Ju. So,
Mhm.
what is it that you think about when you are alone in your car, whether that be when you're at work, in your car, driving to work, driving to your grocery? What do you normally think of when you are in your car alone?
Um, yeah, it's been a while since I've been in my car with
Oh,
COVID.
I,
I'm tired.
I know, eh? And we can always pass. We can always pass.
Um, but um, I mean, for the most part, I think when I'm in my car alone, I'm probably mostly driving to work and thinking about my surroundings and it's very hard sometimes as a police officer not to kind of take off that. I mean, you need to. I recognize that. But what I'm thinking about, it is a tough one because it can vary, right? If I'm going to the store, then maybe I'm thinking the items I need to purchase that day. If I'm just driving to work and I'm just driving, I'm also thinking a lot about the other drivers that are beside me, because you know yourself as a driver, but you don't know individuals that are driving. And of course, I live in Cambridge, worked in Peel,
Mhm.
and you never know what someone else is thinking, what kind of day they had, what their drive, how their driving will impact your driving. So for me, it's always about being really alert and
Being aware.
prepared. Yeah. And when you're driving, it's about, we use the term identify and predict. Always try to identify what's ahead so that you can predict what your movement will be should something happen, right? So I kind of, most of the time, when I'm alone would have been my drive to work and back home. And those would be the way I'd be thinking a lot about just being very aware of what's around me, right?
Uh,
Of the other drivers and their actions.
Excellent. Well, thank you for responding. And like I said to you, some of our question will be a little bit odd question, but
Right.
it's more of a critical one. And keep in mind, we're not testing you for anything here, but it's more of learning from you, because we know people are watching, young people are watching, and we want people to start to think in a critical way.
Right.
And not too often we have somebody unique. I mean,
Right.
every person on our show are unique in their own way, but
Right.
we
Right.
have never, I mean, I've done hundreds of interviews over the years, but I have to
Mm.
tell you, when I realized that you are going to be on the show, I was a little bit nervous as well too.
Nothing to be nervous about.
Right? Because and I've known you, the two of us have sat on the same panel as
Right.
and stuff like
Right.
that, we're gonna have Ingrid here tonight and things like that, right? So but so I had to come in a little bit of a preparedness, so so and I want you to look at it as a compliment too, by the way. So yeah.
Right.
But anyway, so let me move on to the next question here for
Mhm.
you. um if you could be
Mhm.
any animal in the world, what animal would that be and why?
Any animal in the world. Um, I think the one animal I think I would like to be, I've never actually thought about that, but is perhaps I think I want to say an elephant. And why an elephant? Probably you can probably see in some of my prints at the back, having spent time in Thailand and actually riding on an elephant, I was able to appreciate, even though it's such a large animal,
Mhm.
there's a lot of sensitivity within that animal. Um, because when I was on the back of that elephant, riding through, I guess almost like a jungle type idea. But before that animal even takes a step, I guess there's feelers on the bottom of its feet, and it literally feels, senses, I guess I should say, sense the surface, etc., before that animal puts its feet down, right? And to me, that tells me that that's someone that is stepping cautiously, is taking that time. They're not jumping into decisions, and they're not just making this like movement, which to me is, let's talk of it as decisions, um, without thought being put into it, because they don't just step, they literally feel before they actually make contact with the ground or whatever they're going to step on. So for me, that's one of the animals that I truly had an appreciation for such a large animal to be so sensitive in its movement.
Yes, they are extremely sensitive and smart animal. Isn't that something? I'm assuming, because you live in Cambridge, I'm assuming you've went to the African lion safari a few times and
I
whatnot,
did.
right? Yes. Yes. It's a beautiful place for those of you who are living out of the region. You're living, and you are living, far away, and you happen to be in the area. You want to consider visiting the African lion safari. You want to Google it and find it. But it's very interesting because I've seen, some of the shows by the animal shows with the elephant and so on. And I
Right.
mean, you know what I'm talking about. And sometimes it got me thinking, that with the right training and all of that, like, I mean, it seems as if like, they just can follow instruction from a human being, because I can see like the trainer is saying, well, do this, do that.
Right.
And they're doing exactly, and it's just amazing. And they're just, amazing. So the fact that you've chosen that, I think you've kind of, and then the way you answer too really shows that, your understanding of that part of the animal, for
Yeah,
sure.
it certainly was an appreciation, because
Mhm.
I've seen it at the African Lion Safari, but to actually be close to one, and then, going on a horseback, an elephant ride on the back of that elephant was also an amazing experience. The height, the size, and again, just to know that it's actually a like a gentle animal with the size that it has really spoke a lot for me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you. Well, of course, it will be different for different people. In fact, somebody was sharing a story today in social media that he really, really loves animals and so on. And so the fact that you share this, it goes to show that it is a beautiful thing because a lot of people love animals as well too. So that's when we ask you this for a reason, kind of thing. And there's no
Right.
right and wrong answer, of course. So if I was to ask somebody else the same question, it can be something else, right? So,
Very different. Yeah.
yeah, of course, yeah. All right. So my next question for you is, and again, you can always choose to pass some of these questions, but my next
Okay.
question to you is, what was the last gift you have gave someone?
You know, in today's environment and everything, we've gone away from actual hard gifts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I hate to say this. My niece's birthday was actually yesterday,
Mm.
and I'm sorry, it was Sunday. Sunday. Yesterday is what? Wednesday. The days go. Yeah,
Yeah, the time goes as fast. Today's
that's
Wednesday.
right.
Today's the
Wednesday,
17th.
the 17th. Okay, and my gift to her was actually cash. I
Oh,
mean,
there you go. Yeah.
I know that's a bit kind of like, but there's two things for that. First, it meant I didn't have to go in a store and browse and look and to find the right thing at this point where some stores are open, some aren't. This way I can do it electronically.
Mhm.
Again, the contact to, especially in today's COVID environment.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
lessen, that contact and maintaining the physical distancing. And also it is something that she also, I know, from her own personal thing, it's something that she would appreciate and she can take that and make the purchase that she knows she
She knows.
really needs, right? So
Yes.
yeah, that was the last gift.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing that. You brought up a good point, though. I find that these days, especially kids, they want their their own kinds of things that we would necessarily know and so on. And so sometimes the cash can come in very handy because they can decide what is it exactly they want. Even Christmas time can come a little bit tricky when it comes to gift and all these types of things.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. And we know about technology and everything's changing
Yeah.
on a
Oh,
rapid
yeah.
tempo.
Yeah.
They can get that and make their decision.
Absolutely. And thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that openly here. And I realize some of the question, it's a little bit different than what our viewers and listeners are accustomed to, but
Right.
we want to kind of really try them out with you first.
These are great questions. So
We want to
something I
try.
hear and ask every day, right?
Thank you so much. Yeah. And so my dear
No, no,
fellows,
it's all good.
thank you so much. For those of you who have just tuned in or so, you're listening to Let's Chit Chat with Narine Dat. Tonight we have a very special guest, Ingrid, as somebody who I know, Guyanese born, who has really made a name for herself. She happens to be the first Black woman to hold as highest ranking in policing here in Canada. And for those of you who may have missed the piece that she shared, do take the opportunity to watch back this live feed at the end or so. But we are very much honored to kind of for joining us tonight. The one thing I have to say about you, though, Ingrid, is that many times I've sent you email and stuff, and because I never like the idea of calling you Ingrid. I like the idea of addressing you, appropriately in the way how we were brought up and things of that kind. And then you always say to me, Ryan, call me Ingrid. It took me a while. It took me a while to do that. It goes to show the kind of person you are, very simple, very humble, kind of thing. And I mean, being Guyanese as well too, of course. I mean, we take pride in sharing this kind of story, even without you knowing, because we must take these kinds of we must share the good stories out there. And but having you on here is extremely special. Because even I was scanning as people are responding here, I'll take the opportunity to read a few. They're just loving you because they can just feel and see your humbleness and how simple you are and all of that. So you are definitely a blessed soul, that's for sure, and we appreciate that you were here. But my next question for you, though, let me ask you this another one, very interesting one as well. Um, what were you like in high school? I know it's been a while, and things have changed over the years. Of course, if you were to go back, maybe it would have been different. But what was it like for you during your time?
So what I'll say is this: my first, I think it's called Form One that I had in Guyana.
That's right.
Um, in Guyana, I was always a leader, right? I don't know. I think what kind of made me that leader, as you know, in Guyana, when you're in a class, you're ranked in terms of from first to like 20 people in the class.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
I was always in the top three, right? So when I was my first form in Guyana, I loved it.
Mhm.
I loved going to school, having, lunch with my friends. It was my first time actually having lunch at school because school was far away from home. I went to what was called East Rhineville Secondary School, and we called it back school back in the day.
Mhm.
Uh, so I loved that, but it was very difficult for me because I moved to Canada at 14, and that's like a formative years.
Mhm.
Um, so my high school, it wasn't the greatest,
Mhm.
right? But it was important for me to take advantage of opportunities that presented itself. I would have been in a school of, maybe it was a school of 1,500 students, and there might have been 5 Black students at the school. Uh,
Especially those times, for sure.
exactly. This was back in 1970,
Mhm.
74, because I came 74, 75. And, but, I jumped on the basketball team. I learned to play basketball. I grew up in a predominantly Jewish community. This is when I first came. So it gave me an opportunity to also learn a bit about that particular faith. Um, yeah, because it was so unique to me coming from Guyana. We never had any such thing as Jewish people, right? So high school, it was okay, um, but it was not necessarily something that I kind of relished in because I think I had the heavy Guyanese accent. I still have it today. I'll never lose that. But and you were kind of you were picked on, right? And so, but I had my core group of friends and we had a good time. So it wasn't all doom and gloom. There was good times, but I still felt a little bit like an outlier at that time because I hadn't uh, immerse myself into the Canadian culture at that point then, because it would have been shortly after coming from Guyana. But you know, I've learned a lot from it. And I make sure, like for my kids, that I can certainly tell them about that and make sure that they take advantage of certain things and learn a bit more, be a bit more open. Maybe I just hadn't. Um, when you have that heavy accent, it can be a little bit tricky too, right? Because when you speak, you feel like you're not speaking properly, and
For sure, for
so
sure. Eh,
challenging times a little
For
bit.
sure, especially those times. Even when I came here in 1993, of
Mm,
course, there was at that time, 20 something years, 27 years ago, kind of thing. Um, at that time, I know things have changed over the years, of course,
right,
but
right,
at that time, it was still a little bit different. And so
right.
it was like people like me will stand out easily, of course,
Yes,
and
yes.
things of that kind. So it was a little bit of an adjustment for me to kind of blend in and all of that.
Mm,
But so I hear what you're saying, and I'm glad that you are here. I'm glad that you've done well, despite the fact that definitely I can relate to it. Obviously, that it probably was a challenge as a teenager person
right,
to be in a different kind of environment than what we were accustomed to, especially like moving from Guyana and come to this whole different
right,
world.
right.
But you manage it. You managed to kind of move on and kind of really make the best out of it, so to speak. And so
Yeah, my theory and my method that I use as I move through life,
mhm,
and this would have probably started with then. It's there's obstacles, but you have to learn how to overcome it and move on and you know what I mean? Because you don't want to be stagnant and not grow. You have to take what you can and then grow from that. So that's
of
kind of
course, of
what
course, of course. And so this is a question off my head here. So
Mhm.
I will ask you, I will make a statement and I want you to comment on it, and comment on it the best way you can, because I know this is a very hot, very still talk about topic or issue right now.
Right.
So what's your comment on Black Lives Matters? And when I talk about Black Lives Matters, I want viewers to know that I get it that every life matters, but what's your um, comment on Life Black Matters?
Uh, well, I think, people. Black Lives Matters in general, I think people have lived, Black people have their lived experiences. And when they speak about some of the situations, challenges that they've encountered, I think sometimes the wider community question, well, shouldn't it be all lives? Well, all lives does matter. Like that's just, no
Of
one
course,
goes
yes,
there, right?
that's right.
I think they're just want people to understand that as a Black individual, it doesn't mean that you're any different than anyone else. You need to be, and you want to be treated the same, or as others, or equally fair. At the end of the day, it's about being treated fair. So Black Lives Matter to me is an important thing because it's people's lived experience, and no one can take that away, right? They know what they've lived through, and they're just trying to say, not because we're Black that means that we're any less. So I support them in what they do. um, I do believe personally, and this is not even me speaking as a police officer, this is me speaking as Ingrid. I do believe people have the right to demonstrate, but I am not in support of when it gets into vandalism,
Of
etc.
course.
But I do believe they have a voice and it needs to be heard.
Thank you. And I'm glad you said that. And I mean, so, and you said it very clearly. When people are addressing or people are demonstrating certain things, or let's say they're voicing their opinion rather, they're not saying that other people's life doesn't matter. They're just speaking based on their experience. Because believe it or not, as of now, as we speak, these racial pieces still exist.
Yeah.
If you go on and go on certain website, community website locally here in our region, you will see that all leadership are all same demographic. These are
Right.
all things that are still happening now. So that those are the kind of pieces people are trying to address, is kind of things, that a little bit of a fairness, that we matter too, kind of
Yeah.
thing. That's all people are saying. But I think something people it get out of thing, and people are saying, well, everybody's life matter. Of course, we know that. So I'm glad that you kind of nailed it there. I was
Right.
thinking the same way. So that's good. At least I
Yeah.
get one right. So, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I just gotta pop that in. I didn't have that written down here for you, but
Right.
I just thought
That's
I asked
okay.
because it was
It is
just
a hot topic right now, right? It is.
Mhm.
It's at the forefront. It's been at
Absolutely
the forefront for years, but cameras, cell phones, we can't
yes.
deny what we see,
Correct,
right?
exactly. It's always been there, just that now it's easier for things to be
Right.
exposed and all of that. Absolutely. You have
That's
that
right.
part right for sure. So
That's
speaking of that, what's the last thing you've watched on TV, and why did you choose to watch that particular thing?
Well, the last thing, because of the timing here, the last thing on was the news. And one thing I've really adjusted is I was a CP24 person watching the news. Then I realized, wait a minute, I am living in Cambridge, Kitchener, Waterloo. I've just switched over, right? Because I realized I need to be more focused on my local
Mhm.
news. So the last thing I watched was the news.
Thank you. Yes, and I'm glad you made that switch, because it is so true though that like me, for example, I mean, I'm openly saying it here. I've always been a big CNN guy, just watching the CNN and so on, right?
Right,
Things like that.
right,
Something you gain nothing out of it, anyways. But when I listen to CNN, I'm actually just listening for the things that they're not saying, actually, right?
right,
So it's on. I'm doing other things, and I'm more paying attention to the things that they're not saying. That's my main thing,
right.
listening, actually, right? Like a
Yes,
lot of things are not, if you get my point. But
right.
watching the local news is extremely important, because at least we get to understand and know what's going on in our community and our own surrounding and all of that. So I'm glad you made a little
Exactly.
switch, and I can understand why you make that switch now too. Right?
Yes,
And I
yes,
think it was important for you to watch this city because you were on that
right.
end.
And I was right because of my career, my profession. That's where I was, right? But yeah, now it's local. I also want to keep track because I watch CP24, but they don't mention anything that's happening in the KW area with the COVID, et cetera, et cetera. That's what's important to me at this point, right?
Of course.
What's happening here health wise. So
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much. So my next question for you, and again, you don't have to answer this one. I know you've held some really high end role, but there's always somebody atop of somebody as well too, kind of thing. What's the I guess what advice you have for your previous boss?
My previous boss.
And you can choose to pass like anytime you want.
So,
We're just open on our chit chat show here.
so my previous boss, and I don't know if you're aware, is a new chief that just, and previous boss, you mean the one that I had just before I retired, right? Or you meant
Yes.
before? Yeah,
Yes, a previous boss. It could be the
right,
most recent one, would be more
right.
appropriate.
And so he was pretty new to Peel Police because he came from a different police service. And I think my big piece of advice is treat people fairly. Treat people fairly. You know, there you're going to work with people and you may not always like a person, but you have to recognize that person for their qualities and what they bring. And if they're doing a good job, you have to say they're doing a good job. You can't just see everything negative. So the biggest thing I have is the importance of treating people fairly because things change and you just never know. And
Of
really
course.
be respectful. You don't obviously when I say respectful, I mean if I saw the cleaner, even as a deputy chief, there's nothing saying that I'm better than that person. I will always acknowledge them. Just acknowledge, hi, how are you? Good morning. You don't have to have conversations, but just just acknowledge them.
But but it's who you are though, Ingrid, because I can tell you when the two of us were panel guest speakers, on the same panel side by side. I
Right,
mean, not
right,
that I have any doubt of myself, because I have my as you know, my own unique skills and my own unique thing to offer and so on. But then
right.
again, I'm thinking I'm sitting with Ingrid here, kind of thing, and stuff like that too. But you've really made I mean, you've been in this thing for a long time, so but you really made everybody on that panel. I have to tell you that, because there were people, I wouldn't mention name, of course, but there were people who really good in their own way, but weak in certain areas, just like anything else, right? And I think that's one of the reasons we were all there in the first place, because I
Right,
have my own thing, you have your own thing where we can contribute.
right.
But it was so nice that you really made everybody fit in very, very nice. So you've always been that, and it's I always highlight it here whenever I recognize it, because it's a hard thing to do, just so you know. It's not an easy thing to do, and the fact that when people can do it, especially if people like you,
Mm,
because you were in a position where you can just
yeah,
don't bother, kind of thing, right?
right.
But I think because of your uniqueness now, I think that motivate, especially we had a lot of young university student
Right,
there, right? And
right.
so having a person like you there, it was just a perfect fit. So what I'm going to do, I have more questions for you, but on this show
Mhm.
here, we do take the opportunity to surprise our guests. So
Okay.
I'm gonna have somebody join us live now, and
Oh, wow.
you'll get to see them. I know you're not
Okay.
aware, but I've had right. You've known this person as well too, and this is another very blessed soul as well too. I'm glad that I get to know them.
Right.
People like yourself, myself, and the person that's coming up. Like, we do what we need to do in terms of you know um you know contributing to our community and keep a vibrant community. But what I'll
Right.
ask you to do, if that's okay with you,
Oh,
just close your eyes, because I want the person to kind of just close your eyes and don't
gentlemen.
open your eyes until
Oh,
I ask you. Yeah, right. I trust you. I trust you. I believe in honesty. So let me admit the person there, and then
okay.
I'm going to tell you when to kind of open up your eyes.
Okay.
So once we are, oh, all right. How are you doing there, sir? You can hear me, right? Can you hear me? Okay, so good, good, good. So what you can do now, open up your eyes, you'll see who our special guest is.
Okay. I I guess. Oh, no.
I don't know that lady. I don't know her.
I, yeah.
Oh,
Uh,
how are you?
I am doing well. I am doing
Oh,
well.
man.
Long day at work, but it's finished.
Oh,
Yeah, you don't know anything about that, Ingrid. You don't.
I don't. Not anymore. I don't.
You don't know.
It's great.
yeah. Well, first of all, I should let people know that our surprise guest here tonight is currently the president of the Caribbean Canadian Association of Water Region, and the association does a lot of amazing work. I will definitely give him the opportunity to talk about the organization for a minute or two before he leaves. But Ingrid, I wanted to surprise you here a little bit of something. So my special guest tonight, what is it that you can say? I know you've known each other, of course.
Right.
What is a unique thing about Ingrid here, our guest here tonight?
I don't know if it's a unique thing, but I mean, she's multifaceted and she's multi-talented. So she does many different things and she does them very well. I know she's a runner. You know that she had the long service with the police, the Peel Police.
Mm-hmm.
She was a past president of the Caribbean Canadian Association. So you're talking about somebody who's just really very accomplished. And you know, if you were to look at her resume, it would be a mile long. And to do many things is really amazing. But to do many things well, that's a whole other level of excellence, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, now I'm gushing. I'm gushing.
She's blushing. She's blushing. I can see her blush.
Oh, Anandi is here. How are you doing?
Oh, thank you for the invitation. As I beautiful woman. And one beautiful woman should have been enough. But it needs two.
I'm so glad that
Thanks for that.
I'm so glad that you also took the time to join us here. I wasn't sure if you were going to be available and so on, but that was a surprise for me too. So I'm so glad that you're here. Awesome. It's great. So what I'll do, why not take the opportunity while both of you are here? I think it's important. Take an opportunity, let people know about the Caribbean Canadian Association just before you guys leave, because it will be wise. We have a lot of people watching and we want them to know of the great work the organization is doing and the purpose of it. So you have 3 minutes for that.
Okay.
You can do it. You can do it.
Okay, let me look at the time here. Okay, so I'm Lanoy Carol Woolery. I'm originally from Jamaica, but I've made Waterloo my home for the last 28 years. I met my wife, Anandi, here. She is originally from Trinidad. And like I said, together we've lived here 28 years and we have 3 kids. And our kids are a little bit on the older side now. Our youngest is 19. And over the years, as we've done less and less parenting, we've become more involved in community associations, following in the footsteps of persons like Ingrid, as I said before. So I am the current president of the Caribbean Association, but I've only been in that role for less than 1 year, so I'm very new. So I rely on the brilliant, hardworking members of the Caribbean community to help me lift up the members of the community. So we give out scholarships to students attending college or university. We have award ceremonies to celebrate members of our community who have done amazing things here. You're laughing. I wonder why you're like yourself, Narine, like yourself. We put on social events for the community for people to get together and eat some good food. We host Black History Month events. So we do many, many things, but it is a volunteer organization. And so we can only do as much as our members can do. So we're always looking for members of the community to come and to lend their support in any way they can. They can be members of the board, they can be general members of the association, they can volunteer with our organization. And it just helps us to make an excellent future for our community and for our children. And that's really what we're all about.
Awesome. I just thought it's probably wise for you to share. So how can people reach out, kind of thing? Why not share the website and any kind of other information while you're here?
Yes, thank you for reminding me. So you can reach us through our website, ccawr.ca. You can reach us through Facebook, facebook.com/ccawr. So, and on Facebook and on the website.
And Twitter, the handle is @CCAWR 1975.
That's right.
And we do have an Instagram account. Our wonderful secretary, Amanda, looks after that as well. And I believe that's also CCAWR 1975.
Yep.
Is Instagram.
And so if you think about it, 45 years in this region, we've done a lot of amazing things. We're well known, maybe not as well known to some of the newer members of the community. So just want to encourage people of Caribbean people who are interested in Caribbean heritage to reach out, from wherever you are in the Caribbean and let us know, hey, I'm happy to meet you guys, want to be a part of it. We can put you on our mailing list. We have just under 300 persons or families on our mailing list. So if there's something interesting going on that we think is of interest to the Caribbean community, we send that email out with all the links and all the information that they need. And of course, you can reach us by sending us an email or calling us on our phone line. And all of that is available on the website and on Facebook.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. It's a really, really good organization, serve a really, really good purpose. So I do encourage people to check out the website. Lots of information there. The good thing is that I noticed that you guys continuously update some information on there and so on, which is nice, even on your Facebook page and so on. So people can always go. So if you go on today and if you go on, a few weeks after, it wouldn't be the same. You're going to have updates as to what's coming up and all of. So is there anything coming up now? I know this whole coronavirus put things on hold a little bit, but is there any upcoming event you have coming up or you're hoping that you can get rolling?
We were actually hoping to have a family brunch this Sunday just gone, but obviously because of the COVID-19, we had to cancel that for this year. What we're doing right now is trying to see where things will be at in September. September is typically when we have our biggest event of the year, where we award 5 scholarships to college or university students. Tickets are a hot item, they sell out really fast. We're trying to decide now, under the guidance from the authorities, whether or not that event is going to take place, or it's going to take place in a modified form, or what it is. So that's where a lot of the energy is going now. We're also involved a lot in anti-Black racism activities and discussions. So we were present at the march in Kitchener last week. And we were able to lend our voice and lend our support to that. So there are ongoing discussions with the various organizations who took part in that march to talk about what comes next, because this change is so important to not just the Caribbean community and not just the Black community, but to all of Waterloo region, to all of Canada. So we have an important role to play, and we're trying to see what that role is. We're trying to define that role.
All right. Thank you so much for that update. So any last minute thing you would like to say to Ingrid before we kind of say goodbye to both of you? But I can tell you it was such of a pleasure to have both of you join us and surprise Ingrid here tonight. And with such of a last minute notice, it goes to show how, high spirited, both of you are. And I mean, with Anandi join us, I wasn't sure because, it looks like you also trying to surprise us too, which is pretty cool. So I really appreciate that for sure. And we're forever grateful because of the two of you here, we have added to this chit chat here, and this makes it extremely special. And we are forever grateful for that. Any last minute thing you would like to say to Ingrid?
If there's one thing I can say, Ingrid, you are, I've known you for so many years. You are an inspiration to me, and I know that blush, but no, seriously, and I'm not saying it to flatter you. When I've worked with alongside you on the board and see how you operate, I'm always impressed at how you go for excellence. And what I have learned from you specifically, and I tell this story to other people, I don't use your name, but I tell people the story. I have learned from you what is balance. And I do remember a time, like sometimes Caribbean people were not so good for starting meetings and stopping them on time. And I know one thing I admired about you is that you had your self-care time having to do with fitness. And when it was time for your self-care, it was time for your self-care. And at first I'm like, well, aren't we important? And I did, but I saw your example and I learned from it and realized that if we don't look after ourselves, how can we look after other people? And that's something I've learned from you, Ingrid. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that.
All I was going to say was, when do we get an invitation to the Caribbean to St. Lucia? That's what I want.
Don't worry, it's coming. Post-COVID, there's a lot of things that will happen.
Anyway, just wanted to say you have worked so hard for so many years. Just want to wish you a very happy, long, healthy retirement. And we're looking forward to keep learning from you and engaging with you and getting guidance.
Thank you. And I look forward to continue to work with you guys. And I'm learning from you too, right? there's so much that we are learning, especially in today's current environment. So yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I know the hard work that you both put into the CCAWR to bring it to where it's at today. So that's really appreciated.
All right.
And it's
All
a
right.
pleasure working with you guys. Take
All
care.
right. All right. Thank you guys for stopping by. Very much appreciated. But do continue to watch this show even when you sign off here.
All right. Of course.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, we got that.
All right. Yes. So I do have a few more questions for you here, of course, Ingrid.
Right.
I just want to remind people though that they're listening to Let's Chit Chat with Narine Dat. And there are a few different ways to listen to us. You can listen to us on a regular dial. That's the radio, 102.7 CKMS FM. You can listen to us on Rogers Digital Cable for those of you who have the Rogers Digital box. And of course, we are live streaming Chit Chat. So do take the opportunity to share a page. I probably get back to some of the unique questions, that I have here for you. But I do want to take the opportunity to ask you, something related more to your profession, because we have lots of people, a lot of young people. I mean, me working employment and so on. I always have people come up and ask, questions about wanting to get into policing or something along that line, law enforcement piece, all of that, not knowing how or not knowing what it feels like to actually be in the role and things of that kind. In fact, but I had a friend though, who actually, we both work in the same place. We were both working in a whole total different, industry. And now she's a police officer now. She really transitioned herself into that because she always wanted to do it, but she was very much dedicated. I can tell you that it took her a few years. As you know, there are a little bit of a steps and all of that.
Right.
But very dedicated, very, very dedicated, and she made it work for her.
Right.
So I have a couple questions here for you, and I think whatever you share with us here will be very beneficial to younger folks who want to get into it. I have nephew and so on who actually would love to get into policing. They've done, because they're young. I know it's not necessary, but because they're young and don't have the life experience yet, they end up taking like the police foundation course and so on, just to kind of gain more knowledge. That's all. But I know that it's not necessary. So one of the questions I have here for you is, of course, advice for those who want to get into the policing role or anything related for that matter. What advice do you have for them, really? And I know it's a broad one.
Right. No, I mean, policing is today the message from the media and maybe some of the things we see is not all positive, but it is an absolutely fantastic profession. Policing is one of the few professions that I like to think that I was there for 34 years, but in those 34 years, I probably had 7 or 8 different careers because there's so much to do in policing. It is not just about being the officer on the road, driving a car. But what people need to know before they even look to become a police officer, there's a significant amount of administrative duties that go with being a police officer. Key things are writing skills have to be very, very on par because police officers do a lot of writing of reports. So that's a very important thing for them to know. It's not all about driving in fast cars and, catching bad guys. It also involves someone who has to have the ability to communicate effectively. So interpersonal skills is key because policing is about communicating with the public. Everyone you interact with, it is going to be a conversation, regardless of whether you're stopping someone maybe for speeding or you're responding to a call. So someone who wants to look at that needs to make sure that they have those key qualities and community work to get into to become a police officer. Having significant amount of community work is also required because it speaks to that individual's ability to work in that community setting. So that's some of the things they're looking for. It's a great profession. It's not all violence. That actually is perhaps 3% of what a police officers encounter on their regular 30 years in their career. That's probably what they'll have. So it is something that anyone who has the propensity or is interested in becoming a police officer, those are things that they need to know. And it's also important to reach out to the police agency and speak to someone within their recruiting bureau. You want to find out from them, what are they looking for? So you make sure, and you don't want to wait till you're ready to become an officer because as you said, it takes a significant amount of time. So start early. Once you know that that's what you want, give yourself that time prep so you can become the best candidate for that job. But it's an absolutely fantastic job.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you've been in it, so you will be a good one to kind of speak, in areas that we don't see. And you're right. We see different things on social media or in the media and so on, and we tend to believe that it's not like like a good
Right.
role, but you speak very highly of the role. But you brought up a very interesting piece, though, which I kind of knew. If you have good writing skills and if you're able to put together good reports quickly and all of that, and being able to communicate and those types of things that you
Right.
say will really help to make your job easy, really, I would think too, right?
And you're right, it does. My field of studies before I became
Yeah.
a police officer was
Mm.
social sciences, right? So I think for me, communicating, you got to be empathetic too, right? Because you're dealing with people from different, you know, um, different social economic group, and you can't judge someone simply because, right? You have to treat them as an individual and listen to their story. So you got to have that empathy and not just, not because you come. I always say you're not defined by your postal code, right? So not because you grew up in this community means that we're not even going to give you the time of day. You have to listen to people and treat people with respect and fairly, right? So
Yeah. No, very good point. I should mention, let people know. I know you wouldn't care to mention it, but I'll mention it. You also have a master in leadership, and I should mention that you kind of continue. And I'm not. I can understand how you said you've been in a role for 30 something odd years, and you. I mean, you are you have good genes, is what I'm trying to say. That's what I'm trying to get at. And so whatever you're doing, you continue to do that because it's working for you. Obviously, I'm assuming the police role itself, I guess, I think that's one of in the roles that people, is it a requirement for people to continue to stay fit? Because I know you have to be fit in terms of getting in and all of that.
it's not a lot of people really come and then they let that go, right?
But it's nice to keep it up, though, I think.
It's nice to keep it up because if you don't, that's rare. But I think from a personal perspective, I think for me, what's really kind of made me kind of maybe look the way I am and not stress, because I've always been an authentic individual. I've always maintained an authentic sense of self. I'm very self-aware of who I am. And I think that's who you have to, if you try to become something you're not, that's a lot of stressors, right? Because you got to be thinking, two different it doesn't work.
Yeah.
You got to be authentic. You got to, speak out if you see someone's doing something you don't agree, approve of, not agree, but approve of, because it's inappropriate. You got to be able to speak out and say that. You may not be the best liked person, but at the end of the
Absolutely.
day,
Yeah,
you
yeah, you're right. Looks like the two of us will get along well then. You're right. If you see things that's not going right, I think, of course, I think it's extremely important for us to address it in the most appropriate professional way possible, of course.
absolutely, you
Of-
have to.
for
You have
sure.
to,
Because the
right?
thing is, if we don't, what's happening, I find that then it will affect other people, really, kind of thing,
Yeah,
right? Because
because
some people
we're condoning it and then it allows somebody else to do, you know what I mean?
because some people wouldn't speak up at all regardless of what. We know that,
No,
right?
you
And
have
so,
to.
yeah, so
Yeah,
awesome, good stuff,
yeah,
good stuff. So
yeah.
what would be some of the challenges, you may have touched on it in different ways, but what would be some of the challenges you've had throughout your life, whether that be growing up, whether that be, you talk a little bit about the school thing, but even in your career, as you get into your career in policing, and because I mean, as I communicate with friends that I have as well, and
Mhm.
minority people of color and so on,
Right.
and I find that the story that they share with me is that when they're getting opportunity to kind of step up and go up and so on, even that is a challenge for them because a lot of people feel as if, well, they did, they're not deserving of that position and things of that kind. So have you had any of that, or what are some of your challenges over your career?
You know what? Exactly what you said, right? You know, you've worked hard, you've done the stuff, you've demonstrated that you have the ability, and yet still as you move up, there's always going to be people that will try to undermine you and say, well, you're only getting, they may not say it to your face, but it comes back to
Of
you.
course, it comes back to
You're
you. Yeah,
Exactly,
of course.
exactly. You're only getting something because, well, my thing is, even if that's the case, I'm going to go and be the best person I can in that position, because if I don't take it, you probably will, or somebody else will, right? So
Somebody else will.
yeah, the fact that you've been selected to do it. And I mean, in policing, it's very difficult to get to move up in promotion, because it's not just handed in to you. You have to compete. You have to write exams, pass to be successful in those exams, and then you have to go for interviews. So it's not just you're nominated or you're selected. No, you have to compete. And it is rigorous, because anytime you're competing, there's at least 20, 30 other people competing, could be just for 5 positions. So those were the most challenges. Being female and Black, one of the most I found is that I would go to a lot of, whether it's meetings or events, and you were always that only minority person in the room, right? So it was a bit, you felt uncomfortable, but again, you can't let that hold you back from being heard and speaking, that you have, whatever it is that you have to say, you have to give your opinion. I look at it this way. I use all these challenges and I see them as opportunities, right? Because I learn from them and I use them to move one step up. But there's a lot, but a lot of it is mostly so in those competitive positions that I feel, I've been asked before, have I ever felt excluded as a woman and a woman of color? Um, I don't know that I can say I felt it, but when you're in a room full of males,
You know it
right?
exists though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's it. You're invisible. So, and that's why I perhaps chose that blood orange as my number one color, because I say you have to stand out and rise to the top, right? So, yeah,
And I think that, and now you can understand why people like myself and so many other people you wouldn't know are very proud of you, because you really, when you do those kinds of things, when you break all of those barriers, what you are doing, you're telling other people, especially young Black women in particular, that you know what, they can do it. I've seen my Guyanese person do it. I've seen my West Indian person do it. I've seen a person that looks like me have done it very successfully, so gracefully as well too. So you actually, though you've done it well and though you've had a successful career and you are
right.
enjoying your retirement now, I can tell you for sure, um, you are going to continuously make an impact based on your story. There's no question about that. I don't even have the time to highlight some of the awards you've received, speaking of doing well and so on. But there's one I would like to highlight, and I don't want to be biased here, but I will take the privilege to highlight this one. Let me see if you can remember this at all. This is, I'm not testing you here, but I'm just going to pull it up on screen here so I can share this one. I wouldn't, of course, we can't share everything
Right.
within, a 2 hour show here, or I mean a 1 hour show, which we can go for a little bit. But I want to talk about this a little bit, and then you can
Oh,
right, and then you can
yes.
highlight. Yeah. So basically, this was a few years back.
Right.
What people, one of the things, just for the people who are watching, every year we actually present the Activision Awards, and it's not there's a difference between appreciation, recognition, and an actual award. An award is where you're selected for a specific reason, and we have selected Ingrid because of her, of her standing out really. And you're also, we didn't even talk about that, you always find ways to engage yourself in the community and different organizations and so on. I mean, despite the fact that you work full time and all of that, you still find time to kind of participate whenever you are invited and all of that, which is great. But one of the reasons why we actually present you with Activision Award is because you were very well deserving of it. I mean, I don't have the time now to read everything that you have done in terms as as an independent individual kind of thing, and then I don't have the time to list all of your other awards, but I just thought I will have to at least share this one because this one to us, of course, it was in the studio. I'm not sure if you remember the studio.
Oh, I remember it was a cold night. I remember.
What happened because of this this whole coronavirus thing, we actually did kind of pause using that space for a little while because people come in and out and so on.
Right.
So we were doing a lot of things online, as you know, and things of that kind. But very recently, we reopened it back with some restrictions and things of that
Right.
kind. But, this is one, to the people who are watching. This is one of the many awards that was received by our guests. But the reason why I'm sharing this particular one is because it connects itself in so many different ways. It was me who presented it. We are both Guyanese, and we are chit chatting on Let's Chit Chat with Narine Dat. But other than that, she's received some meaningful one. If you want to find out more about her, you can always, in these days, things are easy now, as you know, I don't have to mention. You can just, just check her out online if you so choose. But if you want to know and follow along somebody's, in terms of, who have a good path and a good history in terms of, doing good things, and in terms of making a life for herself, Ingrid will be a good one to kind of follow along. You know, Ingrid, what else can I tell you? It was such of an honor to chit chat with you here. I mean, as I told you before, and I was speaking the truth, by the way, when I realized that I'm actually having you on, you got me prepared here, though I've done this so many times and so on, because I have so much respect for you, because of you. You're being so simple, people can recognize it. And I said to you earlier, it is such of a gift to be able to do that, because a lot of things fly in people's head easily, but
Right.
you are one where you stay grounded, you kind of, and you're using it in a way where you're motivating other people, because you're a people person, in terms of anybody can reach out to you. Anybody can have a little chit chat to you at a corner. Any student, you talk to them, you respect them, and it was you who said it yourself, that it doesn't matter what position people hold, that you take the time. And I like they will like what you said, though. You don't have to have a long conversation, just hi and hello. And I remember my supervisor said to me one time, right, that because what happened. Sometimes people have that expectation, even colleagues too, right? They have that expectation for Narayan or anybody else to say hi and whatnot. And then a supervisor said to me, Narayan, it doesn't have to be long conversation. You just want to say hi, hi. And then at least you're acknowledging that somebody's there, which is a powerful thing, because though you may not make eye contact, the person will recognize that Narayan passed by, Ingrid passed by, and did not say anything, right?
Right.
So that's
Right.
a powerful thing. So I'm glad that
Sorry, I got in this phone ringing in the background.
no,
Yeah.
no,
Oh,
that's totally fine. Um,
uh-huh.
so I mean, I'm very pleased having you here. I'm pleased with how you responded, because ideally, apart from us putting a spotlight on people that comes on the show, we want them to share things that people can learn as well too. And there's no question that people, obviously will learn based on what you have said. I will give you now, though, the opportunity to say anything that you would like to say, any last minute thing that maybe I didn't get to ask and you would like to say, that will really benefit myself, benefit our viewers, listeners, because people will be watching tonight, they'll be watching tomorrow, next week, next month, and all of that. So anything you say here will be very impactful. So this is your opportunity to say any last thing.
Right. Well, first I want to thank you, Narayan, for giving me the opportunity to be part of your show. And I think the one thing I would like to say to leave people with is we are in very challenging times, not only with the COVID, but of course with what's happening, with the demonstrations and the anti-Black racism, etc. But we need to know, and it's important to know that there is going to be, I always like to say, this too, we shall overcome this, and we'll move into a better place post-COVID. And we're hoping, the goal is that we're hoping that from some of the demonstrations, et cetera, that's been happening, that as a country and really internationally, because it's worldwide, the impacts has been in other countries, has been reflected, is that we learn from this, and that it's not just taken and put aside, but that we as a community and as a country do take the time to make sure that what's happening now is recognized, and we move forward by addressing some of the issues that has been identified. Um, I think as a people, and I'm speaking as a black individual, we've come a long way. We've been through, we've been through significant amount, and it is time that we are brought to the forefront and have our say and be respected for who we are, individuals and people.
That's
That's
awesome.
the
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Usually, though, we usually highlight one or two um, things based on what people are responding here. So I'm just going to quickly highlight before you go. I realize I'm
Right.
stealing extra time from you here, but let me acknowledge a few people here. I want to say hello to Christine, Lee. Thank you guys. Thank you all for sharing, the page and all of that. Let me let me see if I can read one or two things here. Okay, so I'm just gonna read one of the comment here.
Okay,
Somebody's
sure.
saying, yeah, somebody's saying, wow, Ingrid, thank you so much. I'm so proud of you. God bless you. Lots of love. Please enjoy life. Being that you'll retire now.
Right.
So they kind of wish you well. I just thought I'd read some of that. Lee saying as well, I guess they're probably they'll respond at different times. She's saying that well said, Ingrid. I love your personality. You are truly a gem. I must say you are a woman of power. God bless you for all you have done to your community and family. You are an inspiration. I like to take that opportunity to read a few things, of course.
Right.
Right. I'm not sure. Maybe Christine is asking a question here, but what I'll do, of course, Ingrid will have access to this, and hopefully, Chris, when you have time, you can kind of respond to some of the questions if you so choose as well.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I'm retired, remember?
Yes, you see, she says she's retired. Well, we are aware that she has extra time because Christine, you asked a very good question there, but I'm gonna kind of leave that for.
I sent it to me electronic or something.
No, she said it openly. She was asking if you ever pull the trigger. So I guess that's.
No. I mean, we do it. We go on the firing range once a year, and I've never even had to shoot an animal. But so I've never had to.
Okay, so thank you. And so there you go. You have your answer there. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, thank you guys. So do take the time to share a page. And for those of you who may have missed the early part of the show, Ingrid, who lives locally here in Canada in the region of Waterloo, is a born Guyanese, and she is the first Black woman to have held the highest ranking in the policing system here in Canada. And we're extremely proud of her for that. And I know that many people will be looking up to her. And it goes to show that you don't have to be really big and tall and strong to be a police officer. Eh? Can you think about that?
Everyone says that. Oh, I thought that was here.
I know. But it's kind of interesting. I went to an event in Cambridge, and there was a girl, an immigrant girl, police officer. And that was the first thing she started to talk about, because very short little girl. And she said, first thing people would think that when you think about police officer, you're automatically thinking huge and strong, big muscle and men and all that.
Right. Well, I'll tell you this. This is just a quick snippet. In 1981, I tried to become a police officer, but because of I was considered underweight at the time, because you had to step. The first thing you did was step on a scale. And if your weight didn't meet a certain, if you didn't have a certain weight, you're automatically disqualified. And that's exactly what happened to me. So those were some of the earlier systemic barriers.
So they've changed that now, I'm thinking.
Oh yeah.
That's what I thought. Because a friend of mine who is a police officer now, very successful police officer, she's, she's in it. And she's a tiny girl, very tiny girl.
Yes.
But I still think if you would know more, of course. I still think there's a physical piece of physical testing though, because she had to join the gym, or did they remove all of that too?
No, there's still the physical testing.
Oh, that's what I thought.
Yeah, you can build yourself to that, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, but you can't change your height sometimes.
Oh, no. Of course. You're right. But you're right though. Like there are things you can do to kind of get up to speed in terms of to be better fit. There's nothing wrong with that.
And absolutely, most police agency will actually have practices so you can actually learn the technique. So
awesome. So my understanding here in Ontario, and this is just my personal question here, you have to know how to swim as well too. Is that correct?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit when I was there, you had to do that. And I always talk about becoming a rock, because I was considered a rock because I didn't know how to swim, but you had to. I don't think it's as Well, like it's a little bit of a different system. You don't even do as much fitness at the police college. So I'm not sure about the swimming. I think it's still there, but
I think it's still there too. Yeah, you could
right,
be very well right because this person I'm referring to,
right,
she didn't know how to swim, but
right.
she was willing to learn because that's one of the pieces they teach you at the police
And,
college, as you know.
and the same thing for myself. I
Yeah.
didn't know how to swim, but I made sure I went and I learned because I was
Oh
in a
wow.
team, right?
Amazing, amazing. So that's
Yeah,
great to know. I just had to mention too. And that's the thing. Like if you people are missing bits and pieces, if they know, as you mentioned, Ingrid, if they know they want to become police officer,
right.
it's okay to have a chit chat and conversation with different people and people in
Yep,
the community, people who've done it, you know, and try to find ways to engage yourself, all of that. And even if
right.
you don't have all the pieces, then you have enough time to prepare for it.
Exactly.
And
Yes, you can go out there and get the
yeah,
skills and be that person. Yeah.
because even the math testing, because keep in mind, some people are really good at certain things and not so very well at
Right,
certain things. And the math tests and so on, those are normal standard testing, as you know.
right.
And I know of many people who had to go more than one time to do the math thing and so on. And I personally prepare a lot of people, you know,
For
with the
that.
math piece because I'm good at math, you know.
Right,
And so I
right.
was able to coach and mentor people and so on. I remember one girl, one person that I work with, when she got the policing job, um, she didn't do any big party, but she was very excited and she called me separately and she said, Narine, if it wasn't for you, I would have not get this job. But what she didn't realize is that it wasn't for her because she was the one,
Right.
she was the
Exactly.
one who kind of wake up early in the morning, go to the gym, believe it or not, go to the gym before she
Right.
gets to work in the morning. That's how dedicated she was.
Yeah, if you want it, you can build yourself to be, yeah, to be that person. So,
All right. All right. So, you know, we're going to stay in touch. Of course, we both live locally here.
right.
I'm so glad you took the time. Lots of great information you share here. This is really, really great. But so whatever you share here, people can hopefully use that and kind of do some research on their own and kind of really realize it is possible. But as you know, people have to have the motivation too, you know,
Right.
because of something like this, you know, really have to, I think you really have to kind of like it and like people too, because you'll be dealing with people from all different
Right.
backgrounds, as
Yeah,
you
it's not
mentioned.
something to go into lightly, right? It's
Mhm.
it's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah. You have to be committed to it and know that this is what you want. So,
Wow, wow, amazing. 30 something years. We really commend you for that. And we are so proud of you. And this is awesome. So again, my dear fellow listeners, as we are approaching the end of tonight's program, we would like to take this opportunity to thank you for tuning in to Let's Chit Chat with Narine Dat. Please remember to tune in to us again tomorrow, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. We have a special guest, of course. You will have to tune in to find out. On behalf of myself and our special guest tonight, Ingrid, who I look up to so much, we would like to join together and wish you a great today and even a better tomorrow. And again, do take the opportunity to join us again tomorrow at 7 o'clock Eastern Time.